The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to the disciples, "Know this, if the owner of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour." Peter said, "Lord, are you telling this parable for us or for everyone?" And the Lord said, "Who then is the faithful and prudent manager, whom his master will put in charge of his slaves, to give them their allowance of food at the proper time? Blessed is that slave, whom his master will find at work when he arrives. Truly I tell you, he will put that one in charge of all his possessions. But if that slave says to himself, 'My master is delayed in coming,' and if he begins to beat the other slaves, men and women, and to eat and drink and get drunk, the master of that slave will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour that he does not know, and will cut him in pieces and put him with the unfaithful. That slave who knew what his master wanted, but did not prepare himself or do what was wanted, will receive a severe beating. But the one who did not know and did what deserved a beating will receive a light beating. From everyone to whom much has been given, much will be required, and from the one to whom much has been entrusted, even more will be demanded." The Gospel of the Lord. My brothers and sisters, it's very appropriate today, the readings that we have on the feast of St. John Paul II, also known as St. John Paul the Great, for his many years of leading the Church and his holiness all throughout the world. He came here to this cathedral basilica. He came to Canada 3 times. Many people remember having seen him, and he touched millions and millions and millions of hearts. So he's one of my favorite saints, but specifically the readings I found very appropriate today. Because in the first reading, St. Paul talks 3 times about slavery of righteousness. Now, you're either a slave of sin or you're a slave of righteousness, holiness. He says, present yourselves as instruments of righteousness. Be a slave of obedience. And these words may sound kind of strange to us because we automatically, and rightfully so, connect slavery with something bad. But this is what happened to St. John Paul. When he was 9 years old, his mother passed away, and his father brought him to the church and brought him before an image of Our Lady. And he said, "Son, you have lost your mother, but you will never lose this one. She is now your mother." So at that age, he really took Our Lady for his own mother. And he had a great devotion to her and would often pray the rosary and other Marian prayers, as was common, especially among the Polish people. But as he grew up, he started feeling, is my love for the Virgin Mary taking away from the love I should have for Jesus? And it really bothered him, because he knew that Jesus was supposed to be his everything, but he loved the Virgin Mary so much. Until he started reading the writings of Saint Louis de Montfort, one of the greatest Marian saints in the history of the Church. He read his book, Treatise on True Devotion to Mary. And in it, Saint Louis talks about a slavery of love. Some people make themselves slaves of others, but we should do it to God out of love. We can give things to God, but the greatest thing that we can give him is our whole selves. So instead of giving God a bit of time, some of our money, some of our work, I'll do this for you, God, then I do this for myself. He says those who want to love perfectly give everything, their whole selves, and they become slaves of love. And he taught that Since Jesus gave himself completely to Mary, he was completely obedient to her. He gave his whole life to Mary. So Jesus wants us to give ourselves completely to Mary, not as the end, but as the means to bring us to Jesus. So then he was confirmed. He said, okay, I'm not losing by loving Mary so much because she doesn't keep the love for herself. She brings it to Jesus. She brings me to Jesus. So all this to say, St. John Paul was so touched by this that he chose totus tuus as his motto. When he became the Pope, his motto was totus tuus, which means completely yours, which is from a prayer of Saint Louis de Montfort. I am all yours, O Virgin Mary, and all that I have is yours. Lead me completely to Jesus. So, we hear now how slavery of love is something that's not oppressive, but it's freeing. And St. John Paul shows us, instead of explaining in words, saying, listen, you can either serve God or serve sin, he just showed us. He gave himself completely to God and was this instrument through which millions of lives came closer to God. He just shows us, just by looking at his life, seeing his pictures, watching videos of him, reading his writings, you see somebody who is completely given over to God and how contagious that is. Sometimes people just turned on the television and they were not Catholic. They didn't know anything about him. And they saw him and they were converted on the spot. Like, this is a grace that God used through this weak instrument. He's a human being just like everyone else. He's a sinner. But since he was completely given over to Mary, so everywhere he went, he would consecrate that place to the Virgin Mary. So whenever he would go to Venezuela, whenever he would go to Canada, he would consecrate this land and all the people. Whenever he would meet groups, he would consecrate them to the Virgin Mary. He says, go to Mary and she will lead you to Jesus. So today, in honor of him, maybe if you have never done this, I recommend you read or look up or study what it is to consecrate your lives to Jesus through Mary. So there's a very easy book. It's very accessible. It's called 33 Days to Morning Glory. It's written by a priest, Father Michael Gately, who explains what all this means in very short readings every day, like 1 page. And at the end of 33 days, you're ready to make this consecration of your life to Jesus through Mary. He kind of sums up Saint Louis de Montfort's writings and brings in Mother Teresa, St. John Paul, and St. Maximilian Kolbe and all of their teachings. Saint Louis teaches that when someone gives themselves completely to Mary, it's the safest, shortest, and quickest way to Jesus. So all of us here want to be saints, right? We all want to go to heaven. Well, there are many ways to get there, and some will be more difficult than others. Some will be more painful than others. But the saints promise us that the safest way to get there, the shortest way to get there, the easiest way to get there is to give yourself to Mary, because she will make Jesus' image in you easier than anyone else, than if you try to do it by yourself. If you try by your hard work and your prayers and your fasting and coming to Mass all the time, without Mary, it'll be really hard. So we have this shortcut today. So 33 days to morning glory. You can do it as a group, you can do it with your family, you can do it with a parish. If not, you can go straight, if you have already read that book and you've already made a consecration to Mary, maybe you can read Saint Louis de Montfort's book, True Devotion to Mary, and rekindle your love, rekindle your joy at being a son of Mary. I'll close with this one thing. Many of us watch the news every day and see things getting more and more difficult in the world. Wars and evil and corruption and woke and all this stuff, and we're getting all, what's going on, God? Our Lady appeared to a Vietnamese mystic and said to him, in the last days, my children will be confused at all the evil that's happening in the world. Yet, I will permit them for a time to feel overwhelmed, so that they will rely on me. And the power that God gave me to crush the head of the serpent, I will let my little ones, those who are devoted to Mary, completely given over to her, I will let them crush the head of the serpent. We can become instruments in the hands of Mary to crush evil and save souls. Only if you want. If you don't want it, then it's up to you. But if you do, follow the example of St. John Paul. Today, on his feast day, let's ask him for this grace not to be afraid to love Mary as much as Jesus did. We will never love her more than Jesus did. Let's ask for this special grace of devotion to Mary and to be used as an instrument of righteousness to bring many, many souls to God. Amen.